Well, excited to see you all here. It's obviously officially wrestling season if you're all in front of me this close, so we're excited to get going. And, on paper, it's a really, really good team. There's a lot of talent right now, and I can elaborate more on that as you guys probably ask questions about individuals. But, as far as a broad statement, there's a lot of talent here. That doesn't guarantee anything, so we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to turn that talent into wins, and we've had a really good preseason, and no secret we got banged up a lot last year, and right now I'm excited to report that we're overall very healthy, and I'm excited we got some wrestle-offs over with this past weekend, kind of step one of that, and then we will train kind of through this weekend, and then we open up. We're going to be able to put our top two guys in at the Cyclone Invite on November 8th. So with that, I'll let you guys take off.
Speaking of freshmen, we got to see some of them at wrestle-offs this weekend. We never know what we're going to see with those freshmen, but these guys are ready to go. What did you see from them?
Well, obviously Christian Castillo is probably the front liner of that true freshman class, and he's really a talent. Right now, by getting a guy like Steve O'Poulin in as late as we did, and being an All-American, the plan is to redshirt Christian. That doesn't mean that if we need him down the road, we've got a chance with the rules to use him 5 times this year, and we might a couple times. And obviously, we want to stay real healthy there, but expecting big things out of him. He's the headliner in that class.
Guys like Steve-O and Vinny, obviously coming from the transfer portal, how have you kind of used the transfer portal in the offseason?
Well, you said it. We kind of use the transfer portal in the offseason. So different philosophy as far as me. 2 years ago, I wasn't a portal fan, and I'm not sure if there's portal fans out there right now, but I think I learned really quick that, if you don't get in and compete for those guys that are already proven, it's one thing to recruit a blue chip high school kid, but to recruit a kid that's already been an All-American at the Division I level, that's a notch up. So we were a lot more aggressive in the portal this year, and obviously picked up 4 or 5 guys, and it's really I like all the guys in terms of just sometimes when you get 5th and 6th year guys, you don't know what you get in terms of work ethic and how they got there, but these guys all really work really hard, so I'm excited about that bunch.
I was going to ask you, what's it like living in the portal circuit 2025, and then again, you mentioned getting Steve L.A. Just how big was that in addition to the other guys you got with that experience?
Yeah, getting Steve-O and Vinny late was 2 places where we, like I said, with Castillo, we just wanted to I think he would do really well this year, but to get him to grow maybe just a little bit more and to get him a lot of matches is a good thing. And then at 57, we were just young, and I told all the guys after the NCAA tournament last year that, we've got to have guys that can go deep into Friday at each weight. And if we don't have guys that can go deep into Friday, then we're gonna shop around. And the goal still is to develop your team, and we've got guys that we've developed, and like the Frost brothers that came in from ground zero and are on the portal. But in those instances where you're maybe a little deficient in a weight, it's an option now, and you got to play the game.
I feel like in your tenure here, you've had a lot of changes in college sports, and this year probably none bigger than having revenue sharing. I guess, how has that impacted your program and how you kind of gone about things in that era now?
Well, I think moving forward next year, we'll have some NIL space for us in wrestling, and so that's going to be good. We've obviously. We've all raised money to help guys get here. It's no secret, but it's definitely a different time and a different era. If you would have told me, 8 years ago when I stood in front of you for the first time that I'd be doing the stuff we do out on the road and seeing corporate people and seeing donors and all the stuff that we've got to do to compete, I'd say you're crazy as heck. But here we are.
How would you describe Younger's journey back to full health, and when were you, I guess, fully convinced that he was fully healthy?
Probably pretty much like the fall. I saw him this summer getting healthy and get back into shape. But really, when we hit the ground, like second week of September, I kind of saw the old guy back. And so he's done a really good job. Obviously, Anthony and Younger are getting ready to compete. We're leaving Friday, a couple of us to go out to Rutgers so those guys compete in the All-Star meet. So those 2 guys are both excited about that opportunity. But, yeah, it's fun to have Younger healthy.
What did Herrera kind of prove last year, and what do you want out of him this season?
Well, he proved that when we threw him into the fire as a baby that he survived, and qualified to the NCAA tournament. And he just came back from the World Championships where he got 5th, which is okay. I'm greedy. I think you should want more than 5th, but that's for a whole nother topic and a whole nother discussion. But there's been growth there. It's an important time for him now. He's got to step up, and he competes really well. And I'll go on record and say that we got to get more out of him in that room right back there. That's called the practice room. If he can really embrace the practice room, and not just him but our team, he's going to see really good results. But you have to embrace that practice room, and so we talk about it all the time. You're going to get famous in the practice room, and then you just, then the product shows up in the big venues and in the World Championships, and that's the next step Daniel needs to make.
I feel like with Younger, one of the things we talked about last year with him was making sure his mentality's right throughout the season. Obviously, we didn't get that full opportunity to see that last year, but how do you feel like he's continually improved in that to be his best self come March?
Well, you have to learn how to be tough when things aren't going your way. It's not just wrestling, it's in all sports, but especially in wrestling, because you can't pass the ball, you can't call a timeout. You got to figure it out, and you got 7 minutes to figure it out. And so we work on that constantly. And like I said, this is a really talented team, but talent only gets you to the door, and it's nice to have a talented team, because if you don't have talent, it's really hard to win. But when you do have talent, if you're not able to prepare correctly, that talent really doesn't mean much. And so we have to be extremely tough, and we have to continue to be tough in the practice room, and we've got to be able to battle in there. And if we do that, then it's going to show up at Hilton and everywhere we go. But talent means nothing if you don't have the right mindset, and that's where we've had Younger's had a tough tournament. The last tournament he wrestled in collegiately was the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, and I think everybody knows that didn't go well for him. But I think he did learn a lot from that, and so there's always a lot there when you have failure. I mean, failure's the only way you're ever going to become really great, and so hopefully that failure will catapult him to having a great season. I think it will.
Who are some of the new names that fans should know about as they look at this new roster?
Well, if you look at just the guys that came in, from that weren't here last year, Rocky Elam, 4-time All-American, ranked number 2 in the nation in preseason. There's not many 4-time All-Americans walking the planet. He's placed between 3rd and 6th his whole career. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. He's really getting healthy now. He had a lot of injuries, a lot of surgeries last year, but he's something else. Isaac Dean from Rider University has been a guy that's been knocking on the door to be an All-American. And then we got Steve-O, and then you got Vinny, and so we've got some guys that just from coming from other colleges will be fun to watch this year.
How have Rocky and Younger grown to be friends rather than enemies?
Rocky showed up in the spring when he was in the portal. He just showed up and wanted to start training with Younger, which I thought was kind of unusual, and they just hit it off really, really good. Younger's a little too big for him right now, so I don't want Younger touching him for another couple of weeks until we get Rocky fully healthy. But even yesterday, I saw those guys drilling together, and Rocky's wrestling IQ is really good, and I saw him kind of coaching up Younger in a couple of positions yesterday. So, yeah, there's already that friendship and that bond there.
We talked a lot last year about the bond between Younger and Daniel, those two being at the same weight class. Do you see that with anybody this year?
Well, there's probably some guys that are good friends, but they're not good friends right now this week or next week until we figure out who the number one guy is. There's that natural competitiveness, because obviously there's no secret that we've got some weights that are really competitive and up in the air, where you got guys that are ranked in the top 5 and the top 10 and the top 15 nationally. And so there's no disrespect at all. In fact, it's respect there, but there's competitiveness, and we've got some weights that it's going to take us a while to figure out.
You got guys that got the wrestle off, but Evan Frost, what's kind of a timeline for us seeing him at 33?
Evan and Osmani both are progressing down to 133, so we'll see how well they do with that. They didn't start the season out well in terms of just their progression, and so I stepped in and pushed it back a ways and say, we got to do this right, and we got to follow. We got weight charts. We're not going to be that team that's going to crash down in weight. You're going to have to make a weight for a month out, 2 months out if you want to be at that slot. We're not going to go over there and fall on our face and embarrass ourselves. So you follow the rules, and you get a chance to try out at the weight. If you don't follow the rules, you don't get a chance to try out at the weight. That's just cut and dry.
What have you kind of learned about Rocky Elam and his time here, and how is his kind of injury progressing? I mean, is he someone we can see right away, or is he someone that maybe in and out of the lineup just as you guys work him back from injury?
Rocky's been really good in his career because he's really good. He can wrestle. There's some guys that win. Everybody wins different ways. Rocky Elam can wrestle. He can hit holes like a lightweight guy. Our challenge with him is just progressing him along slowly so we don't get ahead of ourselves. So he's a guy that you'll probably see on a pitch count, and that means we probably won't use him all the time. But, it's funny, as we get closer to going, he's talking about going on everything. But we are really going to have week to week. I mean, we literally have a weekly meeting every week with him on how his training might be a little different this week than maybe everybody else.
As a competitor, how hard was it to see the way last year was for you personally, and does that kind of fuel the fire this year?
I think so. I think that's a good question. You know, we're all competitors, and I know especially when you're coming off of a fourth place trophy finish, and you know, last year at this time at this press conference, we had a lot of hope. We figured we were in contention to be a trophy team again this year. But then you take out, you know, all the guys we lost. You know, Swiderski got hurt. You got Younger got hurt. Anthony got hurt. I'm sure I'm missing 2 or 3, but we had a lot of guys that went down. Redding got hurt. You know, we had a lot of really good guys that went down. Tarakina was hurt all year. Just sometimes that happens in sports. So I can tell you right now that we're trying to do everything we can to figure that out so we don't duplicate that.
Are you doing anything different on the health side of things to maybe prevent any of those injuries this season?
You know, that's a good question too, because the year before we won the Big 12s and everything went right, and we basically had the same lineup all year. So I said, that's a pretty good formula. Let's just duplicate that. So we duplicated it, and look what happened, right? So we didn't change anything from the year we got fourth in the nation to last year. The wrestle-offs were the same way structured. The schedule was almost identical. The break over Christmas was identical. The amount of lifts we did every week was identical. The amount of live wrestling we did was identical. And you see what you get. So I think that just tells you, I mean, you see what's happening with the football team. And, you know, even I saw just an article that the amount of injuries that Arizona State and Iowa State have had in the last 6 weeks of football is crazy.
Have you noticed, do those injuries kind of leave some hunger, that you see some extra hunger this year now that those guys are some
I think there's a little more gratitude. I can tell you with Anthony Ichimandia, he sat out a long time. I mean, he had a high ankle sprain that was going to just require kind of a routine 5 to 6 week surgery. They called it a tether surgery. And he gets ready to go. He's literally down. We get him healthy. We're really going to get ready to wrestle Oklahoma State at the 11th hour. I decided to wrestle Jacob Frost and hold Anthony out, but Anthony was ready to go. And the next morning he wakes up and his foot starts swelling. And by Tuesday he's in the hospital and his foot's as big as his head. And he's got infection in it and went through 3 surgeries and didn't get off his back for literally 3 more months. So he's pretty darn, he sat and watched a lot. So his attitude and you know, he's having to work to make 141. There's no complaining. He's just so glad to be off the bleachers because he literally sat in those bleachers for 6 months watching. So there's a lot of gratitude with those injuries, I think, right now.
Connor was one of those guys too. That
Connor,
was the
yep.
story of the year
Yeah.
last year at the beginning, and then kind of had that knee injury.
I forgot about him.
About him, you know, so far as well.
He's tough as nails. I mean, you saw that match in Iowa City. He was right in there with Caliendo, who's a stud, and we tear our ACL and we finished the match, and you know he wasn't back on the mat till this summer. So we just got to keep that guy healthy because he's a heck of a wrestler. You know, so far he hasn't been able to stay healthy the whole year. So we got to just figure that out.
Any interesting stories when you were recruiting any of these new guys coming in, just like the way you landed them, anything unique or funny or challenging
let me
about
see.
getting them in?
Well, of course, when Rocky got in the portal and we were negotiating with him, everybody was in, you know, when you get a 4-time All-American like that. So just hearing, I can't say it because the TV cameras would all blow up, but just hearing some of the numbers that, you know, that he was offered and some of the deals and this urgency for people to literally just show up at his house and sleep in the curb until somebody answered the door, you know, after he kind of had verbal to us, just the, you know, the competitiveness of wrestling coaches just blows me away and some of the dumb stuff they do. But I think that's probably the thing that, like, I'm like, wow, this portal stuff. I mean, you think about it, you recruit high school kids and it's competitive enough. We're all trying to get the number 1 or 2 or 3 ranked guy in their weight classes. But now you start throwing 3- and 4-time All-Americans on the market. I mean, wrestling coaches are competitive dudes, and some of the stuff that's, you know, being offered. I sure hope the new rules and, you know, the College Sports Commission and you know, deals, non-rev share deals going through Deloitte actually has some compliance to it and some teeth to it, because if it doesn't, it's just going to be crazy out there. It's just going to be completely nuts, and they just got to figure that out.
How do you evaluate a weight class like Jacob Frost and Panero going at it, going to OT? I'm assuming they've got some familiarity with each other going forward for that weight class.
Well, I not just with those guys. I tell the guys that are in really competitive situations, here we are in late October and we don't go to the NCAA tournament until mid-March, all right? So it's truly going to be the guy that's the most consistent, the guy that's the toughest, the guy you can count on. all year long. So there, in wrestling we have a lot of open tournaments. So if things don't go well for you right away, you're going to get a chance to go into some really big open tournaments and get yourself back in the game. So the door's never really shut. It's not like we're going to go to we're going to try to, by the time we finish on November 8th, again at the Cyclone Invite, at that particular point, we're going to try to have the starter for November and December. But then we're going to reevaluate and see, where we're at. If you're the starter and you have a really good November and December, it's going to be really hard to schedule a wrestle-off. But if you're a starter in November and December and you're struggling and then you got a guy winning tournaments and beating guys at open tournaments, we're going to open it back up, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that it's about the guy that's really good in February and March that's going to do the best job for us. So, the wrestle-offs are important, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
When the word hunger came up, I immediately thought of Pinero, given what he's gone through, having the sport taken away, not always being at his best on the biggest stage. Where's he at, headspace-wise and from a physical standpoint?
Physically, he's fine. He's. I told him, in the last couple of days, I said, you have to figure out a way to brainwash yourself out there, and always be excited about the next 3-point move instead of worrying about what's on the clock and worrying how long this match is over before I win this match. So it's all mindset. It's 100% mindset with him. It has nothing to do with physical ability. He works really hard. When he first got here, he couldn't run. It was really hard to get him in shape. He can do what everybody else can do right now. He just got to get this figured out right. And there's other wrestlers out there that do too. But when he can brainwash himself into just scoring points, he's going to be a hard guy to beat, because he is an athlete.
How have you seen your guys really come together with so many new faces? Then you bring in, a new coach, Lance. I'm blanking on his name. How have you seen them really come together, and what's their culture like this season?
I think that's a personality question. I think right now I was actually surprised to see how well. We had guys that would get in the portal, and then they'd make their announcement to Iowa State, and then they do they throw out a post of themselves wearing the new singlet. And then I was surprised at the number of guys that took that and shared that, guys, the team, even guys at their weight class. I was kind of surprised, to be quite honest, because, there's naturally a competitiveness. If you bring in a guy that's an All-American at my weight, I'm standing in the sand and I'm not giving any ground. And I think we got guys that are doing that, but I think just the personalities we've got have been very receiving in bringing these new guys in. And all these guys want to win as a team. So there's a silver lining there as well.
What was enticing about bringing Lance running in?
He's an Iowa guy. I loved watching him wrestle at UNI. He did whatever he had to do for the team. He was obviously under a great coach in Coach Schwab. He grew up at Southeast Polk. Just when I got to talk to him and interview him, I've never really talked to him in my life. I've just watched him carry himself and his demeanor over the years as we've competed against him. And man, he started with us this summer, and what a good hire. All right, I'm going to pat myself on the back, because sometimes you get lucky, but that guy he's a talent. He's already, for being so close to age with the guys, I see already that he's not afraid to step up and challenge them. Like even the good guys, Rocky, younger, he's stepping up and challenging them. And those guys could probably pick him up, throw him down, but he's doing his job, and he does a really good job here.
Got time for one more.
Facility. That was on the docket for a while. You guys were really excited about it, taken away from you. What do you guys have to do as a program to make that a reality again?
Now we got to find a $20 million donor.
So it's on the table if we got the money.
Yeah, so you call your friends. Okay.